Hello for my latest unload. I'm about to make a shake, and I didn't yet get the magic bullet I was going to, but I was already spending more money than I should be this weekend, so I said to myself, let's show some restraint for once. Oh yeah, I have oat milk in here. Oh yeah. And I said, I'll wait and get that on my next paycheck. But then I went to Whole Foods and spent like $60. Oh my God. So easy to do there. That's like for, 5 things. But I'm going to make a shake, and I thought I'll share with you what I put in this one since somebody had asked. So I'm going to put, I'm trying to cut back on my dairy consumption, and I had just bought a giant thing of what I think of as whole and whole instead of half and half, which is heavy cream. I got in the habit of putting that in my coffee, and I was like, bitch, you sit too much to be using heavy cream, so why don't you dial it down a notch? And also, I've been having a lot of digestive issues lately, and I keep saying, like, I don't want to talk about this stuff, but then I talk about it anyway, so I should just shut up. Let me shut up while I'm talking more. Yes, I hear myself. So I'm trying to adjust, and I love that all these companies are being pressured into coming up with more non-dairy type alternatives. So this is an oat-based probiotic drink. It's an oat-based kefir, and I really love regular whole milk kefir. I have the impression in my mind that it has a healthier variety of probiotic cultures, or a better quantity of them, and I think that's probably in my head. I don't think there can't be that big of a difference with a cultured product, but I would like to see some good writing on that, so I should probably look into it. This is an oat-based, non-dairy, obviously, kefir, so I'm using some of that. It looks very thin. I usually like to use full-fat dairy products because I think that the ones that are skimmed down, they're just making them sugary. They're just replacing the fat, and I think a little bit of real fat is good for you, but then I think to myself, yeah, but is dairy fat really good for any of us? Probably not. Adding a little bit of regular just oat milk, this stuff here. And I also try to balance the flavors there. So I'm trying to get some creaminess. I should just show you guys how much I'm adding here. A little fresh OJ, strongly preferred. Yes, it's expensive. I make it last as long as I can. Sometimes it's so good. It's so much better. It tastes like oranges, not like concentrated sugar water with orange flavor added to it. I just realized I don't have any frozen banana, and that is no bueno, because that is an essential ingredient in a good shake. It's for texture. It's the starchiness of a banana. It gives it really good texture. Avocado is another ingredient that's a must for me in my shakes. I do have some frozen bananas in here. I just stuck them in with my frozen strawberries, didn't I? Yep, I sure did. Okay, well, I have to interrupt this video so I can use the microwave, because I take my frozen stuff and I microwave it for like 30 seconds just so it's not so frozen that it doesn't blend up nicely in the blender. I also need to grab, I got spinach arugula blend. I'm going to throw a little pinch of that in there. I'm going to show you guys more, like in a maybe more detailed way or whatever. When I get the magic bullet, I'll be making my shakes much more of my standard size, which is like a 32-ounce shake that I drink for a couple of hours. It's just something I've been doing for years. Bumpy unload, FYI. Okay, so now I'm also going to add my greens and what I like to call bloobs. I don't know why, but in my head I always call blueberries bloobs. This is some Cermak shit right here. When you shop in the Chicago area and you go to Cermak, you get the same price for like 4 times as much produce. So yeah, some bloobs, some spinach and arugula. So tasty. I love a little bit of arugula spiciness in my shakes. It's so good. I actually like to just eat handfuls of arugula and spinach together. A little kale in there is really nice. So I've got some frozen bananas I stuck in here, and also pineapple. So the banana gives the starchy texture, or has the starchy texture, and I feel like it's almost a binding or thickening agent in a shake, so it's really important to have that in there for me. And then the strawberries add a little bit of acidity, and the texture obviously is kind of nice, and they're obviously good for you. These are organic ones. I have a lot of cynicism about the whole organic thing, but sometimes I buy them anyway if it's not astronomical. And then I've got my coconut puree. I love that they sell this. They sell these actually at Walmart, and they sell, I sat and waited for an hour and a half before they even started this unload, and I was editing the video you will have seen already by now. And I was like, I need to make this shake. And then I'm like, well, let me make some more video. And I end up feeling a little overwhelmed because it's a bunch of stuff that needs to be edited, but it's okay. You guys are worth it. Glad to provide informational entertainment. All right, and then I'm gonna take my handy dandy paring knife and throw some avocado in there. And avocado is a must for me too. It's completely different without it. That's the one ingredient when I run out of avocado, I'm like, oh, I can't make shakes till I go to the store, because it adds the creaminess to it, and it's good for making it more filling, makes it last longer. So I'm gonna just use half of this avocado in here. It's a small avocado. Like, kind of hesitant to add anything else because this thing is leaking like crazy, and it's the first time it's done that. I do know what I can do though. I'm gonna, oh shit. Thank you. Yep. This is not good timing. Yep, the light's green and they need me to move, so I'm just throwing a little more oat milk in this thing. But this thing is leaking like crazy. All right, better get out of this door and finish making my shake by the exit. Hopefully there's a little room over there. Area, and every now and then you need an inversion. You just need it. When you sit all day, it feels so good, and you don't have to do handstands. You can also just lay in your bunk and put your feet up the wall if you find a space to lay. Some people who are tall, that might be more difficult. So I'm at this rest area, and in a minute here I just stopped to rinse out my shaker cup, and I realized, you know what, I might be able to get loaded tonight. So let me, because I have so much time on my clock today, and I just don't have a lot of miles today, which kind of sucks, but my dispatcher's been doing a great job of making it right by just making sure I get paid a certain minimum if I have a week where I don't get enough miles, which I think is amazing. It's probably because I'm a newer driver too, and they're trying not to lose me because they see that I'm good and dependable and on my shit. So part of being dependable and on your shit when you run reefers is making sure that your trailers are prepared for the loads that you're going to be doing. Certain shippers are very strict about the presentation of those trailers because a lot of what you're moving is food, and it's sensitive to contamination. So I had noticed when I was at this drop-off that I looked inside the trailer, which I didn't even open because it's one of those places where you back in with the doors closed. They open it inside, they unseal it, had 2 seals on it. They unseal it and open the doors in there, they unload, and then they close it back up again. So I opened it really quick after I pulled out of the dock doors and saw that there was some, not bad, but it needed a sweep. So I was like, oh, let me sweep it right now. And it's still nice and cold in there because it was at -10. So it felt so good to go in there because it's muggy and gross. I'm on my way down to Missouri again. And when I walked to the back, I saw there was some blood in there. And I was like, shit, that has to be washed out. And for a second, I was being dumb and I was like, oh, maybe I can just, it's not very much, maybe I can just wipe it out. And then I started looking closer. I'm like, no. First of all, that's a no-go. You need to have it professionally clean when there's visible blood in there. And second, it's more than I would want to wipe out anyway if I was going to attempt to do that, which probably you wouldn't want to do. I imagine only certain people, like owner-operators who are struggling and trying to save money on truck washes, would attempt to like clean it up themselves. I'd be curious to hear though how other people might handle that, but it's not a lot, but it's enough that it needs to be done professionally. So since I'm running early, instead of trying to go to that pickup now, I'm just going to find a truck wash on my way and get the trailer washed out. Unfortunately, that's one of those things that happens, and that's a good example too for any of you who are prospective drivers or whatever, that's time that you're working because you're on the clock and you have to take care of this thing. I mean, technically you can turn off your clock while it's getting washed and do what? I don't know. You have to wait until they're done, so you can't just screw around or whatever. Like you are still captive, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So that's unpaid time. You know that you have to do this because the customer needs to have a clean and sanitary space in which to place the stuff that you're going to be transporting. Words. Wow. Okay. So, and this load is going out to New Mexico. So I'm heading out. So I'm heading south and west, and hopefully it'll be a good smooth trip. The last time I went out there, it wasn't as enjoyable by any means as the more northern west trip, but it's all good. Beggars can't be choosers. So I'm about to look up a truck wash and get back on the road. What is up? So I'm wearing a rash guard right now, looking like I'm ready to go surfing because it's sun protection and I'm sick of getting cooked. And I'm in New Mexico right now, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get an array of rash guards with this SPF 50 fabric because I don't want to destroy my expensive, painful tattoos, and I don't want to age my skin because I'm vain. And damn it, skincare is expensive. So here's the latest, and I'm not trying to complain, mind you, I'm just trying to explain. So that could be my new line. So I just dropped off this load that I brought from Missouri, and I've been on this kind of high all day because it's weird. It's not a very high mileage week, and that is stressing me out a little bit. I definitely didn't get enough miles today. I think I only drove for like 6 hours, and I am hoping that my dispatcher will even it out, which she has been doing by sort of guaranteeing me a minimum of mileage. Basically, she was so happy to tell me that she was getting me to see my mom the day before her birthday, and I was totally not expecting that. Like, I had asked her to route me through Alabama to see my mom, and she said she would do it, but I wasn't expecting it to be like almost on her actual birthday. And I thought that was so cool. She, like, you know, really did the work to make it happen. She is going to bat for me all the time, and that I know, so I have no complaints about her whatsoever, quite the opposite. But what happened then is I arrive at this terminal, I talk to the person who is sort of the same version of her but here, and she told me that she's really trying to pull some strings at this customer to get that preloaded trailer loaded in time for tomorrow morning, but it's currently scheduled for 1500. So I'm like, that's not great, because the load delivers in Fort Myers in Florida on Monday at 8 in the morning. And I don't think there's probably a lot of flexibility there because it's a pretty big name customer. So usually those types of things are somewhat rigid, but who am I to say? Because you never know from one destination to another. I think things can be a little bit different, but usually when it's one of the major food companies, they're not like super flexible about that stuff. So I guess the worst case scenario is if that trailer is not ready until the afternoon, I'm going to be on a really weird driving schedule, and I'm only going to be able to spend a little bit of time with my mom. I would have to like flip my sleep schedule, pick up this trailer, and because I would basically be starting towards the time that's normally like I only have maybe 3 hours left in my day that I would be driving. It would basically force me to flip my sleep schedule, which is, as you guys know from my recent bitch fest, not great for me to do that. So I don't know, man. So I'm just, you know, every time I get on this camera and start complaining, things tend to change. Let's hope it works. Maybe I should just always do that. Let me always complain and then it'll like make something shift. So fingers crossed, seriously, that they can get it done, because earlier my regular dispatcher told me, she's like, you know, this company, they work with us, they're really cool, it should be fine. Like, she obviously anticipated that it would work out, but then the dispatcher here is like, well, actually they have it scheduled for this time, and the person that I'm working with is not the most helpful person usually, so I'm gonna tell her that we have a driver that has a family thing they need to deal with, which is pretty true, you know. And she's gonna try to get him to load it overnight. So all I can say is fingers crossed, and I'm trying to remain positive. I really don't want to disappoint my mom more than anything, because I know that they can arrange for me to get out there again. But, you know, this speaks to exactly what I just said in my latest video. Best laid plans. You can't plan things in trucking because there are a lot of things that are way out of your control. And even when you have a great dispatcher like I have that really does their best to make things happen for you, there's no guarantees, because customers be crazy, you know? So fingers crossed. But otherwise, I can't think of anything else I want to tell you guys other than that there are too many flies here in New Mexico, and it's probably a good thing they're around, because otherwise there'd be a lot of dead things instead, I guess. Okay, here's a funny side story. Once upon a time, we lived in a very rural place in like far west, northwestern Illinois, not super far from the Wisconsin border, and we were bordered by farmland, and there were so many flies there, like an obscene number of flies there. And there was someone who lived there who had dogs, and there were like open dog food bowls, you know, and it was the kind of thing where they left the food out for the dogs and they would just graze, which is not how I feed dogs, but it's like, you get it now and that's it. But anyway, the flies were out of control, and my mom would freak the fuck out, and I was with her 100%. And I have hilarious memories of my mom walking around vacuuming up flies with the fucking, with the attachment, like the hose attachment, just vacuuming up like dozens of flies. It was a losing battle, but it's kind of hilarious thinking about it in hindsight, even though we were just like fully disgusted at all times with the flies being around us and not being able to get rid of them. No amount of fly paper when you live next to farmland is going to really do the job. So anyway, I hope that entertained you, and keep your fingers crossed for me. Well, by the time you see this, we will know what the outcome is. So fingers crossed. One other thing I totally forgot to say is my APU is not working properly. And it's funny because this truck is a 2023. What happens is the AC will work for a while and it stays pretty cool, and then it'll crap out. And it likes to do that in the middle of the night around like 3 in the morning or so. It'll just start like barely blowing air, and the air that it's blowing is not very cold, and it's really annoying. I actually have started saying screw it, and I'm like turning the truck on and running it for a little while with the AC on. I slept for like an hour with the truck running, which I love sleeping when the truck is running because it just feels so good. It's like a vibrating cradle that you're just like enveloped in, and it's awesome. For me, it's like a great way to sleep. But it's also wasteful, and my company doesn't like us to idle trucks because it's a waste of fuel, which I get. But you know what? You have to control the temperature, and when the weather's getting warmer and you're in warmer climates, the thing that's unfortunate is it'll be much cooler outside of your truck, and you're like, oh, I wish I could open there's like little vents on the sides of the sleeper that would be nice to let fresh air in, but you can't because you're parked next to like an old ass Volvo that they just run. They don't have an APU, so they run all night, and you would just have diesel fumes pouring into your truck. So that's a no-go. It's always so much warmer inside the truck. It's really a bummer. And there's windows that it could open up in the upper bunk that I could use to like air it out too. But again, same thing, fumes, a lot of fumes. I was gonna say too, I was actually parked in a really nice rest area last night, and I got some, okay, now I guess I have to tell you guys other things because I almost forgot. Let me finish what I was saying before I tell you that. So long story short, I had this serviced previously and I think I talked about it in another video. At our home terminal, I had it looked at, and I told him like it's not staying cold, and he looked at it. He was like, there's plenty of Freon. He did do something to it, and he's like, it should be great now. You should have no problem. It's going to stay ice cold, but it doesn't. And I don't blame the mechanic at all. Trucks are weird, man, and they have issues, and they have these expensive APUs or EPUs. This is an APU, not an EPU. And frankly, on my truck at my last job, I had an EPU, which is the thing that has opti idle, and it does, the engine starts and stops during the night. And while that is disruptive to sleep, I far prefer that because it did hold temperature much better. And again, I like to sleep when the truck is running. So like when it was really cold outside, the truck would run for most of the night, and it was great. It was glorious sleep. Okay, let me tell you. So I slept overnight in this pretty nice, very spacious rest area in Texas. I love a rest area, and because it's just usually quieter. I like certain rest areas over others. Some I don't feel as safe in, but this is a really nice one. There's someone in the building, I think 24 hours, and it's super clean. It's near Amarillo, Texas. So some of you know which one I'm talking about. It's huge. And it's got a beautiful overlook, which I might have taken a little video of. I'll show it here if I did. And then this morning, I caught the most beautiful sunrise. And the skies are so wide open there, as I'm sure many of you know. It's really beautiful. And the ground is covered in like these sort of desert plants, a lot of sagebrush, and there's rolling hills, you know. I get on the road, and I left at the perfect time this morning because, and of course in my head I'm like, oh, I wish I was leaving earlier, da-da-da. No, I left at the exact right time because as I'm driving, the sky in front of me is this dense sort of gray sky. I see just faintly emerging off to the right side, I see this little prism of a rainbow. Like it's one of those faint ones and you think it's gonna just disappear. But all of a sudden it emerges and it is a full, complete, just beautiful rainbow. And I got video, but the video doesn't do it justice. I was able to pull off in a place that was not perfect, but good enough to pull over. Don't judge me. I had to get some video of this beautiful rainbow, and it turned into a double rainbow, which the second one was really faint, but you could see the whole rainbow. And the video doesn't really show the colors and the intensity of the color, and it was so amazing because the sky behind it was just so dense and gray. And then I'm telling you, I drove under the rainbow. Like I'm noticing it looking like it's getting closer, and I'm like, how is this possible? I've never had this experience before. And I was like, am I gonna get like a pot of gold for this? I know that's the end of the rainbow, whatever, let me have my little fantasy. It was so magical, it was so cool. And like just moments before, I had pulled out of the rest area before the sun actually came up over the horizon line where I could see it, and then in my rear view the beautiful bright orange sun emerged over this pastel sunrise sky. And then ahead of me, just a couple miles down the road, this rainbow emerges in the rain. It was raining too. It was cool. That was a great way to start my day. So it's hard to be annoyed about anything when you have a beginning of the day like that. This is long, but hopefully it's worth it. I got to share this stuff, man. These are the moments in trucking that make all the crazy shit we deal with more worthwhile. So anyway, there you go.